Alright, welcome back to the Michael Strychnine channel. Today we're going to be disassembling an Ibanez Edge Tremolo and giving it a full bath and then reassembling it. This is one that I got off of a Craigslist rescue here, if you want to call it that. Basically, a guy was selling an Ibanez RG that was just beat to absolute crap. The body was cracked, and there were other paint splotches even on the neck. And it's like the whole thing is basically unplayable as it was. So this guy was selling it for cheap, so I got it, and I'm basically cleaning up whatever parts I can off of it to turn around and sell. So here's the edge. You can see this part here is broken off, but that shouldn't affect the actual usage of the unit because the indentation there is still in decent shape right there, and the other one's in good shape too. So I figure I can still get, I don't know, maybe 100 if I'm lucky out of this. So let's tear it apart here. Let's take the springs off. One neat thing about the Ibanez tremolos is that they actually have this little bracket on the back here. I'll zoom in a bit more even. They actually have this little bracket that goes into the bottom of the base here to keep the springs in so they don't accidentally flop out when you're doing other work, when you're releasing tension on things and whatnot. So that's actually a pretty nifty idea there. I'm just taking these off to get them out of the way. So basically, it's a hex wrench here. It's an Allen wrench. It's a 2mm, I believe, that works on these things. You can see not even the intonation was set right on this from the guy that owned it before. Now you're going to have these little Allen screws, and they also have little washers in them. And those are important because those go between the screw and the saddle. We'll be cleaning everything here, but I try to keep things in order as they're coming off. When you're reassembling it, you definitely don't want to get the little washers on the bottom there. You want them in between the top of the Allen head and the saddle. You don't want it between the saddle and the base. Sometimes these can be a tight fit, which I take as a good thing. So then you also got to take the other screws out here, and those are a 3mm. Start on the low E. Probably should have done this the other way around, actually. That way the intonation screws would have kept the pressure on here. Should have used my finger. So this one is missing, actually, a little chunk of the bottom here. There's actually another little plate that goes across there on the saddles. You'll see on the other ones here that stops the block from falling out. That one's missing it. It also helps to keep the block in place when you're when you're changing springs. This other one's missing it too. Maybe they didn't put those on these earlier edges. This is off of a 1990 guitar. I could swear I've dealt with other tremolos of that era that do have that plate on the bottom. Yeah, this other one's missing it too. Maybe, wow, unless this, I find it hard to believe that all of these broke off by accident. Maybe some idiot broke all these off on purpose, or they just didn't come on these older edges. But I could swear I've worked on edges of this era and even older. This was off in 1990, I believe. RG 570. I've worked on an 89, possibly even older, and those had them. You can see how this is pretty dusty and dirty, and this has probably never been deep cleaned. So we'll take a toothbrush actually to this. Let me get the block off. I accidentally called that a base earlier, didn't I? That's the block. The other thing here is the base, or the plate, or the base plate. There's also this little metal springy gizmo in between there, and that keeps the pressure on the end of these, of the tuning screws, to keep them upright as it's sitting in here. And that goes between the block and the base plate. There's also two other parts that I will not be taking off. One is the thing that the tremolo bar goes into. I'm not going to take those off because sometimes those can be a real pain. And then also there's this in here, which is a plate that can be removed if the screws strip out in here. You can actually swap this plate out for a new one, but I'm not going to take that out of here. Again, that's a bear to get in and out. Alright, so let's get this thing cleaned.